Our mission: Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone, and thanks, Dolores, for being here and speaking.
Thank you, Irene. So I'll quickly read Dolores's bio. Dolores Cruz is the mother of 4 children, including Eric, her youngest, who is in spirit. In May of 2017, Dolores and her family received that dreaded knock on the door where they were told that Eric had been involved in a single car accident and had passed away on impact. As we all know, this was the beginning of the hardest journey she and her family would ever have to take. Dolores describes those first months as being in a deep, dark hole with no light, and wondered if it was ever possible to live again and feel joy again. She immediately began doing anything she could to find some kind of meaning and healing, if that was even possible. After reading dozens and dozens of books about near-death experiences, afterlife, and spirituality, as well as listening to hundreds of presenters speak on these same subjects, Dolores found that not only did she begin to see the light in her life again, but also joy, the joy in knowing that Eric is still around her. She was led to write a book called Look Around about her journey with the intention, excuse me.
You okay?
I'm fine. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Sorry.
No, it's my fault. With the intention of honoring Eric and helping other parents who have found themselves on this same very difficult journey. Excuse me. She credits her amazing grief therapist, as well as Helping Parents Heal, for guiding her towards always finding hope and healing in the aftermath of Eric's transition. She is a recently retired elementary school teacher and has been married to her husband, Joey, for 35 years. So I'm so glad that she'll be speaking and not me. So without further ado, please welcome Dolores Cruz.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thank you, Irene. I'm really excited to be here. I would love to just tell you about Eric to start with, just who he was. I know that's what we all love to do, is to talk about our children. So as you heard, Eric was born November 23rd of 1992. So he was the youngest of 4, and he was also not expected. We thought we were just having 3 children, and that was not the case. Apparently, he was definitely meant to be here. I have no doubt about that. And of course, he was a joy. He was your typical boy. He played baseball for 9 years, which we enjoyed so much. He did well in school. And after high school, he went to Chapman University in the city of Orange, nearby Los Angeles, not too far away, along with his older sister, Vanessa. So he has 2 older sisters and an older brother. But Vanessa is only 16 months apart from him, since he came unexpectedly. And they were more or less like twins, just so close, so close. But they went to the same college, they had the same friends. One of my most special things about Eric, the specialness in our relationship, is he was a a drummer in a band. My brother was a drummer, and when Eric was 10, I think, he told me he wanted to play drums. And I said, that's fantastic. We don't have the money to buy a drum set, pretty expensive. So he saved his money. And within a year or two, he was able to go out. My brother took him. My brother was also his godfather, and they bought the drum kit, and we started him on lessons, which he took for a few years, and then he did drums in high school on the drum line. And I mean, that was Eric. He was the drums. And then when he got to college, he found a couple of other guys that became his bandmates, and they started a band and wrote their own music. And that was just probably one of the greatest joys of my life. The thing that I could do that brought me the most joy was to go see the band play. There was just something magical about it. My own older brother was a musician as well. He also passed early. He was 26. He was born with a congenital heart defect. We knew he would not live a full life, and he was an incredible musician. So I grew up with garage bands and sitting in there as a kid, and the loud music and the amplifiers and the guitars, and that was just in me. So when my son started doing this, I was all about it. And my husband and I, our family, we would go to, as many gigs as we could. So many of them started 11 or 12 at night, and I wasn't going to go to those. But if they started at like 9, I would go. And anyway, Eric always, we always had that moment where he'd be playing and he'd look at me and he'd smile, and there was such a connection. It was beautiful. So anyway, so he did that, and he was at a point in his life when he was 24. He had just gotten this job that he was really going to make real money, not just kind of, the lower end. It was something good to start with, and he was excited. He was still doing his music on the side, but he had gotten this job, and I think it's a recruiting firm, something I knew nothing about. And he had the job. He had this girlfriend. They'd been together but a good year and a half, though they knew each other in high school, but didn't get together until the previous year and a half. And he and his siblings spent a lot of time together. They always got along well. They would go on their own outings, and of course, family outings were always a joy. So he had just started this job, and it was the second week. It was a Thursday night. And he was still living at home, and so was Vanessa, his sister, the one just above him. And he told me he was going to go out with his friends after work. So, he was excited because he was all about, he was going to get to know these people, and he was very compassionate and caring. And I know we all can say this about our children because there's something special about all of them. But he just really, people said that he just made them feel like they mattered. He would, no matter how old you were, you could be an old person, and he'd still take the time to talk to you and get to know you. And so he was very well loved. He had lots of friends. And so anyway, that night, he wasn't home around 9, which I thought was a little strange. I thought they were just going to go grab something to eat. And I was going to get ready to go to bed because I had to get up at 5 for school, and I was teaching school. And so I just texted him, and he just said, oh, I'll be back. Thanks. I'll be back later. I said, the food's whatever in the refrigerator, for dinner if you want anything. So, I went to bed and didn't really notice, some people say that they noticed something. I can't say I necessarily noticed, but I always had that discomfort. He's not home, but I'm going to go to bed. But it's always been okay before. Even the times I worried, even the times I wondered where he was, it was just, And I've had that with my other kids as well. Well, I get up at 5:15, I think, somewhere in there, 5:30. And he's not in his room. And my husband was out in Toronto on business at that time. So I opened my daughter's door to her room. She's sleeping, and I just said, have you heard from Eric? Because I texted him, of course, and he didn't answer. Have you heard from Eric? And at that moment, as soon as I said, have you heard from Eric, there was the loudest pound on my door. And I knew what that was. And I just said, oh my God. And Vanessa ran down with me, and there was a sheriff, we were in an unincorporated area. The sheriff woman was standing there, and the county coroner, I guess. And then there was a sheriff's male behind her. And she just said, does Eric Cruz live here? And I said, yes. And she said, Eric Cruz has passed away. And I just lost it. I couldn't believe that she said what she said. She explained about his car accident. She said she was not unkind. She was actually fine. She was doing her job. She was professional, but I could tell she cared. And she just explained that it was on impact. He passed right away. And I remember saying, can I, of course we were just wailing. I remember saying to her, can I see him? And she hesitated and said, well, when the car hit, it rolled and it burst into flames. So you can't see him. So it was, as you can imagine, just totally unbelievable. Didn't even know what to think and didn't know what to do in the next 5 seconds. I mean, just did not know what to do. She said, start calling people. And they left. And Vanessa and I just screamed for about an hour. And then I had to call my husband and tell him that Eric had passed away. So that was an incredibly difficult thing to do. So he, of course, had to get on a plane and spent the next 12 hours from Toronto with a stopover and trying to get home. And I asked him, how did you handle it? And he just said he just was on automatic when he was at the airport, but once he got on the plane, he just turned his head and just cried looking out the window as quietly as he could. And, I mean, it was just really, unbelievable, as you know. Anyway, called lots of people. The house was amazingly filled that night. It was a Friday and Saturday and Sunday with so many people, so many friends, and it brought so much love into the house, which I was immediately thankful for. There was so much love and support. I do want to mention, because some people have said, did their child have some idea? Did anyone have a premonition or something? And like I said, I didn't know. I didn't get any of that except for one tiny thing. That's tiny, but I just always remember it, was that when he went out the door that morning and I said goodbye to him like we always did, and he walked down the 2 steps to go that way down the driveway, he would always just say bye and then go. And this time he said bye and he took a step and then he just looked at me again. And I noticed it. And I just thought, that's unusual. And I didn't think bad or good. I just thought, it just took me by surprise. Well, the moment I found out what happened, that he had passed away, I thought of that. So I think there was something. And the way I explain it now that I know what I know now is that his soul knew, and his soul was saying goodbye. Well, just giving me that little extra. During the one thing that we found, this became the title of my book, is that one of the boys, one of his friends, who was another drummer, and then all those musicians came out, and it was just incredible, told my husband and I that first night, pulled us aside and said, we always used to get together at Travis's garage, and they'd hang out and they'd play music and they'd talk and whatever, they'd probably drink. And he said, but when they'd walk out to go to their cars at night, and it was so beautiful, and it could be 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, that they would just stop and that they would say, just look around. Look at how beautiful everything is. Look at the stillness. So that really touched my husband and I, and those ended up on the little holy cards that you can get sometimes you get when you go to a memorial. Well, usually you get when you go to a memorial. And that was the quote we used. And it just stuck with everyone and almost became a kind of a catchphrase. All his friends would post stuff and say, I have learned, I'm going to learn from Eric, and I'm going to look around, and I'm going to appreciate, I'm going to treat people with compassion, that's what they took away, and that's how they will honor him. So I cannot say, I know not everybody feels like they have had success with a therapist. I happen to find someone who specializes in grief, a grief therapist. She was incredible. I felt totally safe when I go in to have a session with her. She led me. She knew what we needed to do. She led me along the way. And I had every intention of figuring out how this could happen and how I could heal. I had every intention of doing that. So if she gave me a little homework, I did it. There were things, just journaling things or making lists of things, or there was certain things to do. So I did everything there, and I just started reading books. My sister-in-law gave me On Grief and Grieving by David Kessler, which I really enjoyed. And then I looked him up, and then I found his website, and then I started taking some of his workshops, and I still to this day am in connection with him, and he's awesome. So then, so I'm reading books. I started reading books. Somebody gave me a book by Mary Neal, 7 Lessons from Heaven. She had the near-death experience after her kayaking accident. I just started reading that book. I read other near-death experience books. I read Jeff Olson's book. I just found from one would lead to the next somehow, and it just went on. I was always reading. And then, interestingly, I think it was November so 6 months later, I get a message on Facebook from someone I don't know. And I don't usually, I'm not going to accept friend requests usually if I don't really know somebody or if I don't see who they're connected to. But she sent a message and I looked at it, and she said, "Hi, I'm Amy. Your cousin Susie is my cousin on the other side." She said, "Susie told me what happened, and my son passed away last year. And there's this amazing group, Helping Parents Heal." So what a coincidence, as we all say, that I got that information. Obviously, I was led here and immediately signed up and became a member. And again, just being here, being part of the group, reading the posts, doing my posts, seeing the responses, and listening to all the speakers was amazing. My healing, I was just really on a roll because I was just learning so much. It was just the learning. It was learning about what more there is than just this life. I had been raised Catholic, as a lot of people I hear have. It's amazing how many speakers say, and I was raised Catholic. But anyway, and that was fine. It was fine with me. I had no problem with it. I went to Catholic school, 1st grade through 12th. I was good with it. And I had a relationship with God, and everything was great. But when this happened, it did not comfort me. I needed to figure out what else there was. So again, I learned, and this is the way I feel it and I see it, is that this was what I knew about God, but I learned all of this other stuff. I learned way beyond it, and it's not the same. I don't believe the same way I did before, but it's so much better, and it brings me so much more comfort. And I do believe in God, but not the same one that I used to believe in. This one's just more amazing and more loving, and certainly a source of comfort. So I just came along, and I'm trying to see if there's something else. I want to mention that all of that, as all of this new knowledge and healing is coming about, new understanding of what else there is and how our loved ones are there. And that was clear in the message I was getting from Helping Parents Heal, from the books I was reading. And wow, did it resonate with me. There were things I read that didn't resonate with me. And I had a beautiful friend who sadly has also transitioned since. But during this time, she contacted me, and she was sending me books like James von Praagh and other books. And she said, the first thing she said was, if it resonates with you, just keep it in your heart. And if it doesn't, just throw it away. And I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. That makes sense. That sounds good. And that's been my mantra ever since. If it feels just right, it is true. And it is true for you. And if not, just don't worry about it. Some stuff that I didn't resonate with have slowly come back, and now they do. So everyone's journey is different. Honor your own journey, and you will learn to trust just yourself. And I think that's just one thing that I've certainly learned. So I do want to mention some of the amazing signs that I've had, some of the connections that I have had with Eric. And one of the very, very first things, before I knew any of this, it had only been about a week since Eric's accident, and I had to go to the store, so I went to Whole Foods. And as I'm walking in, I was by myself, and I was walking in, and there were a couple tables set up outside. You know, sometimes there's somebody wants you to sign stuff. And I noticed the sign said, DARE program, D-A-R-E, and I recognized it because I'm a teacher, or I was a teacher. I'm retired now, but it's a drug awareness resistance education program that used to come into our school site and hadn't been around in a while. And there were two young people there, a young man, young woman, early 20s. And I said, oh, I'm going to stop by there because it meant something to me. So I went in and got a few things, came out and spoke to the young man. Of course, this young man is about Eric's height, is about Eric's build, it's about Eric's age, and was very friendly like Eric. And I said, hey, what happened? You guys don't come to the school anymore. He said, yeah, they lost funding. They could, so they're trying to get donations. I said, yeah. So I wrote a check. And I didn't mention that, just so you know, in all my crying out to Eric that previous week, I kept saying, I need a hug from you. I need your hug. So I write the check and I hand it to him, and he gives me a receipt. And as he's handing me the receipt, he says, how about a hug? And I just thought, wow, who says that? What person were you at a table outside of a store says that? And I just said, I can always use a hug. So I hugged him, and it was just like as if I was hugging my son. And I said, thanks. And I walked away, and I was just totally just confused and like, what was that? What just happened? Was that Eric? And without a doubt, that was the case. So that was like something that happened where I just felt that must have been him. And he was giving me the hug I was asking for. So then another thing that happened about 3 months later was the family was going to a birthday party of my other son, Nick, of his partner's niece, and she's like 5. So, we all went to this birthday party. And as we were getting out of the car and walking over there, I just thought, Eric's not here. He would have been here. And then I said to myself, no, he's here. He's here. So I, went in, and we had the party, and we're standing around at one point at the table with food, standing, holding plates. And all of a sudden, in my peripheral vision, totally clear, totally in full color, was Eric. He had a Hawaiian shirt on. He had one of his caps on. He had his little dark facial hair. He was looking in the center like he would have been if he was just with us, just looking in the middle towards everybody. And I just slowly turned my head, and as I did, he dissolved. But he was clear as a bell, and I just said, see, he's here. He is here. And I told my family later, and they were very happy to hear it. Again, we're all like, wow, how does this happen? So I hung on to that, and I have not had that since, but I don't need it, because the fact that it happened then, they say there's no time over there, right? So it could, it counts for now. I look at it that way. It's just, it is there. That was his message, and his message is I still take it, that he is here. And another amazing thing, another 3 months after that, every night when I would go to bed, my the way we did it, because I had to get up at 5. My husband was a night owl, but I wanted to go to bed at 9:30, and So what we've always done is I go to bed. Well, he goes to bed with me, lays down with me. We talk. We talk for like 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. And then he says goodnight, and then he leaves. And then he'll come to bed later. And by then I'm asleep. So every night since Eric's transition, we still did that for the, other than maybe the first night or two. But he would shut the door and I'd cry. It came out. It was fine. I allowed it to come out, and I would talk to Eric. And I had learned previously, probably one of these wonderful speakers here, about how to do a self-guided meditation to be with Eric. So I used to do that. I would do that. I would, close my eyes and I would relax, and I would go to a beautiful place, and I'd have Eric come over to me, and we'd sit down here at this chair, and we'd have something like Starbucks, and we would talk. So I knew that I could do that and it would bring me peace. So as I cried and I was feeling so tired, and I thought, I'm not going to do the whole 10-minute warm-up. I'm just going to go see Eric in that spot. I just want to do it fast. So I created the scene, as I always did, and I saw him coming to me. And all of a sudden I heard in my ear, "I'm right here, Mom." And it wasn't on the outside, but it was kind of on the inside. It's hard to describe, but it was him. I had this peace come over me. It was beautiful. And I went right to sleep. And again, I haven't heard him like that since, but it's okay. I don't need to. I remember that, and I know he's with me. And we've had a ton of other things happening anyway. As much as I always tell him, hey, if you ever want to talk to me again, it's totally fine. I welcome it anytime. So, and when I said I never saw him again, let me mention one thing I did see. It wasn't right next to me, but I did see him actually, so I should correct that. Last summer, my husband and I were able to go to Europe with 2 friends. It was a beautiful trip before COVID now, and I'm thankful we were able to get that trip in. Anyway, we were climbing up the winding stairs in Prague Castle. Whew, I don't know if it 200 whatever steps, and it took quite a while to get up there. And we were laughing and panting. We were practically at the top, and I was first. So you look around the curve, and I looked back, and right between my husband and my friend Linda was Eric. And I said, and then just for a second, and I was like, okay, I knew it. I know he's here. And, he was, and I saw what he was wearing. I always wrote down in my journals, and by the way, my journals hold tons and tons of these signs. I always write down what he was wearing if I see him in a dream or something. There's a few other things, and I could go on. My daughter, I have had dreams about him, which are comforting, but the best dreams my daughter has had, where they just hang out. They are laughing, they are teasing each other, they're saying, things to each other, the snide remarks, and whatever, and hugging. And sometimes she says she wakes up crying from that, but it's so him, the things they talk about, the things he tells her. They're just having fun. And I would love to have one of those. I did have one dream where I got to hug him. I also would get, as I'm falling asleep, just all of a sudden his face just flashes right in front, right there in my mind's eye. And I've written them all down. I've had very, very many of those. I've written them all down, and this is what he was wearing. I don't know, I'm all about, and this is what he was wearing, but because it's so real to me when I can see the clothes that, they're so license plates, probably the most fantastic one. When I got on the freeway at one point, after seeing the first one where that said mom's fave, and he would always joke right in front of my daughter that I was supposed to tell him, come on, just admit I'm your favorite. Even though my daughter Vanessa was there. And he goes, no, it's okay. Don't worry about her. Just tell me. It's okay. You can tell me. So anyway, that was the joke. So coming out of a store, there was a license plate, mom's fave. And I was like, okay, Eric. Anyway, I get in the car and I get on the freeway. And there's a license plate that says, the letters are EC, that's Eric's initials, EC, LUV, love, or I'm sorry, LV, love, and then MOM. EC, love, mom. And I thought, what? I mean, what are the chances that would be there and that I would see it? So I take all of those. I talk with Eric every day. I talk to him while I'm in the car. I talk to him about music. That's the thing I miss the most in person and physically, is sharing the music with him and going to see the band play. I just keep that relationship. And that's another thing I wanted to mention, is that my therapist, early on, within the first couple months, she said something about, well, now you're going to have a new relationship with Eric. And I was like, what? That didn't mean anything. What do you mean a new relationship? But honestly, I have a new relationship with Eric, and I am so thankful. I never, ever would have imagined that this would have been possible. But I do. And I talk to him all the time. I talk to him, and when I see a license plate that's meaningful to me, I tell him, that's awesome. Sometimes if it's really cool, I might laugh really out loud and say, that was a good one, Eric. And, it's joyful. I don't know how much longer you want me to talk, but I've got quite a few more signs I could mention.
Well, I just want to tell you that you have so many people just so happy about all these signs that you're telling about in the chat box. I also wanted to just mention, because I didn't at the beginning, that you're a caring listener. So
Yes.
I talked about all these other caring listeners, and then I was telling that you're an affiliate leader, but you're also a caring listener, and I'm so grateful that you are. I would love for you to tell a little bit about the first conference. You came to our first conference.
Yes.
Wonderful. If you could just maybe tell a little bit about that experience, that would be so wonderful.
Yes. So it was in Phoenix. My husband came, which was wonderful. And he's totally all about this. He doesn't get all these signs, not really, that I get, and I'll have to tell you about a dream. But he loves hearing everything I have to say. Oh, my family is like that, and they're very supportive that way. And then they'll share things too that they get. But anyway, and if I think of it, I'll tell you about that. However, so we get on the plane. One thing that I thought was really interesting is we get on the plane to go to Phoenix from Los Angeles, and he's on the aisle, I'm in the middle, and to the right is a young man, Eric's age, got the earbuds in. I was dying to ask him, what kind of music are you listening to? Because I wondered if it was what Eric would listen to. I was a little shy, so I didn't say anything besides it kind of looked like he was starting to go to sleep, so I didn't want to bother him. But when the lady, the server or the steward would come and offer, something to drink, he was saying thank you so many times, just the way Eric would. And I just thought, you're with me. I know you're with me. I mean, here's the proof. Anyway, so we go, and yes, it was the most amazing 3 days. I mean, we had that first night. I got there on, I think it was the Friday night, and then we had all of Saturday, and I think that's what it was, I'm pretty sure. And then the part of Sunday. Anyway, what I remember is walking over towards the room, and here comes Elizabeth, and she had a couple of people next to her. And she, I wasn't in there yet. I didn't have a tag on. She didn't know who I was. She came right up to me and gave me a hug and said, welcome. And that just set the stage. That's like, okay, this is amazing, and this is how it's going to be. And it was how it was. There were, I think we said there were like 400, 500 people there, and people were so full of hope and joy, and talking about their experiences and their children. There were so many speakers. I couldn't see them all because you can't. I mean, you've got to pick. There's usually 3 going at the same time. Eventually, you can kind of get back to one because they do more than one speaking. But it was so healing and so beautiful, and the energy was so great. And then we had our banquet, and that one we were able to do the banquet. And I mean, gosh, the energy in the room, and it was such a beautiful experience. And I was so sad that we weren't able to do this past one because I was so looking forward to that again. But I know it'll happen. I know we're going to be able to do it again sometime.
Well, yes, definitely. And what I really wanted to tell you to tell about was this experience with Kevin or with Eric on the plane, which I just thought was amazing, obviously. I mean, this young man with earbuds in that just reminded you so much of Eric. And I also want to just let you know, first of all, that I think it's so sweet. Steve is saying that castle in Prague is amazing. So he's obviously been there himself, which is wonderful. So many people are talking about all of these different signs that Eric has sent you. A lot of people are saying that they're Catholic or Reformed Catholic as well, which is, it's something that comes up a lot. And being able to incorporate all of these different beliefs is just wonderful. And I love what you said about taking whatever resonates with you and leaving the rest behind, which is what we always ask people to do. And it's true that in the beginning, some things might not resonate at all. And then after a little bit more time, they do resonate. They become more and more understandable, and we've been experiencing them on this journey. So all of a sudden we tell ourselves, gosh, this is something that happens and it's normal, which is good. I mean, the most important thing, I think, from having you speak, having all of these people speak, and I'm seeing Colleen saying that it was an incredible conference. It was an incredible conference, but we are so fortunate right now to have this conference online, because all of the speakers who were going to be speaking at this next conference, except for Dr. Mary Neal, who's incredibly busy, but I'm hoping that someday she'll be able to, have agreed to speak, and who have they've spoken more than once. Dr. Raymond Moody's come back, Eben Alexander's been here, all of these people. And so I feel very, very fortunate that we're able to get together like this and talk to each other. Yeah. But you are an incredible writer. I really felt that the book itself, I read it very quickly. I think Irene did as well. It's just so beautifully written. But the thing that stands out to me the most about all of these books and all of these different parents who talk about these kids, obviously Roseanne's on here as well. Paula and Conrad haven't written a book yet, but they will. And their son, Nicholas, is so much like Eric. I just feel like, I think all of us are in agreement that our kids are extraordinary. They're just some of the best. And knowing that they're helping us from the other side is such a wonderful thing. So let me just ask you, I have a question that I think is really, really a good one. When your brother passed, how was it for your mother at the time? And was it different than the way that it was for you in terms of her path to healing?
Yes. There was nobody for her to talk to about it. She did not go to therapy. When I spoke with her recently, she did pass away. It's been almost 2 years now. But when I did speak with her right after Eric passed, and she was still here, and I said, how did, what did you do? She's just said, you know, she couldn't really do anything. My dad, unfortunately, would never talk about it. She couldn't talk to my dad about it. She talked a little bit to some friends, maybe, a little bit to her sisters, but people, they didn't want to hear all of it. She hung on to his music just like I hang on to Eric's music, and she hung, onto that relationship with my brother in her way, and would often, we'd go over there and his music would be playing, and she lived her life. She had up, so she had to live an additional, 39 years before she passed, and she had lots of amazing happy days, and she would, and I would sit and she'd chat, and she would talk about, how life was good. But then she'd still have her days. She would still have her days after all those years of just being down and missing him. And that's just, we will have those days. And she did too. But yeah, she did not have any of this. And she's handled, I don't know, and somehow she survived it.
What
Yeah.
about for you as a shining light sibling? Was it hard dealing with that, and probably feeling like you needed to heal her, and to heal your dad as well? I mean, I can, obviously we have the same issue today with kids whose siblings have passed.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
It was just, it was, the one difference, at least, and I don't know if how much different, but it might be different. In fact, my mother even said it was different. She said, we always knew his life was going to be short. I knew it was going to happen. When it came, it was still a shock, and it was still extremely painful. So somehow, I don't know, there was a difference. It wasn't better or worse, there was a difference. The difference was that we knew it was coming. With Eric, we had no clue. There was so much going, happening in his life. And my mom would even say to me, well, I knew that it was going to happen, but boy, you had no, and so she would kind of feel sorry for me in that way. It was like, oh my gosh, you had no idea. Either way, it's just, yeah. Didn't really talk to too many people about it for myself. I just eventually, I had my boyfriend, which helped, I feel like it did. And my boyfriend used to be his bass player, my brother's bass player. So, they were friends. And anyway, yeah, there was nowhere else to go and nobody to talk to. It was hard.
Well, it certainly gave you a crash course in probably being able to move forward and start healing
Mm-hmm.
when Eric passed as well, I'm sure. So Litzy is saying, my mother also had 2 of her 3 sons transition before her, which is very, very, very difficult. I know that Craig Hogan as well is a shining light sibling, and his only 2 brothers passed. And he saw how difficult it was on his parents, and his mother was a therapist, but it was still very, very difficult for her in spite of the fact that she had all of that training. But I just want to let everybody know that your book is Look Around, A Mother's Journey from Grief and Despair to Healing and Hope. But there's not a lot about the grief and despair. Mostly it's just about the happy times that you spent with Eric, and then moving forward and being able to see all of these signs. Is there another sign that you would like to talk to us about that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, I would love to. And then I want to say something about the book, but my husband always, every June, had to do business in New York. So there was always the New York trip. And then I would go at the end of that trip so we could spend a few days. So I think it was a year later, not the first one, but he had to go that June, which is just within a month after Eric transitioned. And I was hesitant, but I went. But the one a year later, I arrive, he comes down to meet me in the lobby. We go up to the hotel room. I look at the door and I go, "Oh my God." The room number was 2311 and Eric's birthday was the 23rd of November, which is the 11th month. I mean, and he hadn't noticed. And he was like, "What?" And yeah, it just was such a beautiful feeling. I said, "Well, he's been with you obviously this whole time while you're here." That was really, really fun. Um, my daughter, which I thought was pretty amazing. And again, this was early on before we really were understanding about signs. But within, just a couple weeks after Eric's accident, she already had a trip planned with a friend. They were going to go to Croatia and Italy. And again, she was in so much pain and didn't know if she should even go. But, after much discussion, she went. So she went, and there was an upcoming concert that they were going to go to in New York. I think they were all going to go together, called Panorama. I believe that was the name of there were many, many bands, and it was like a music festival called Panorama. So she was in Italy on a train from one place to the next, and I think it was night, and she was looking out the window and crying because missing her brother and just thinking, should I go to this thing? He was supposed to be there. Should I go? And the hillside, they're going through the countryside, and there's not much, but there was a sign lit up that said Panorama, just out of nowhere. And again, it was her brother telling her, go to the concert, go have a good time, and I'll be there. So yeah, there's definitely those. But what I wanted to say also about the book is, and probably other people who've written books in this situation probably have had very similar. My therapist had said to me after 6 months or so, she said, "So, do you have a book in you?" And I said, "I don't write." No, I don't have a book, and I'm not a writer. So that was that. And then someone else had asked me about a book, and and I said no, and again, I kept saying no. And she even asked me one more time at about the 1 year mark. So I don't think so. But then, of course, now I'm starting to, it's somewhere in there. It's like they were planting a seed. But then I had one or two different mediums tell me, "Well, Eric says you're going to write a book." I'm like, I keep hearing this. So I said, apparently I'm supposed to, but I don't know how that's going to happen. One day I was driving to work, and it's only like a 15-minute drive. But within a few minutes of getting in the car, I had what people call the download. And it was like, this is the book. These are the chapters. This is how it's going to work out. And I was rather blown away, got to work and wrote it all down. And then I just went, wow. And I hung on to it. I didn't do anything right away. I just kind of hung on to it and thought, well, maybe one day I will. Maybe one day I will. And then when COVID came, I thought, something just said, okay, do it now. This is the time. And I started in April and it finished in August. And I followed that format. And when I would write, I would sit down and I'd light a candle and I'd just say, okay, let's go, Eric, and team of my helpers and guides, let's go, flow through me and out my hands. And that's how the book came to be. I had so much help from the other side.
That's absolutely beautiful. Mary is asking, can you please tell us what the image of Eric was like when you saw him in Prague? What a special blessing.
Oh, okay. So yes, he was, like I said, between my husband and our friend, he was wearing kind of a green army looking jacket over his t-shirt and jeans. And he did not have a cap on. And he had a big smile on his face because he was going up the stairs with us and having fun with us. But yeah, that's what he was wearing.
That's amazing. And Lindsay's asking about your guides. She wants to know if you know who they are.
This is kind of a new thing for me. I spent a lot of time with this beautiful group that are mediums, and they have just, They're the most beautiful people that I know, and they have taught me so much. I am not a medium, but I do understand that we all have guides, and I've spent so much time in meditation. I meditate twice a day now because it makes me feel so good. So I'll do a morning and an evening meditation. I always have had my angel. I named her Anne. So I have Angel Anne. I was pretty sure I had another one. And the way I found out about him is I was thinking one day, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And again, I know it's not their actual name. It's the name that I'm going to give, but it's the name that resonates, I guess. And I said, it starts with an R. It's either Richard or Raphael. And so the next day I went to work, and a sub had been in my classroom the day before. I go to the desk, and there's a card from the sub, and his name is Raphael. And I said, okay, you're Raphael. So I have Angel Anne and Angel Raphael. And then the other thing that happened is something came to my mind, because I know some people give their guides a collective name, a single name, like Suzanne Giesman does. So I was thinking about that, and something came to my mind, this word that apparently is a real word, but I had never heard of it, and it was Ananda. And it was like, that's interesting, because it kind of came up for me in meditation a few times. So I wrote it down, and I thought, maybe my team is Ananda. I don't know. I looked it up, and it means bliss. And I thought, yes, that makes total sense. And so as far as the exact people in that group, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm feeling real good about, because of my background, I've got Jesus, I've got Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene came to me more recently, so I lean that direction because that is my background. I totally feel the love from them. I speak to them. Also Joan of Arc because of her strength and courage. So I thought maybe they're my team. So can't say for 100% sure, but I'm always in communication with them, and I do have a group called Ananda, and it kind of works. So that's
beautiful. I love that it means bliss. And Paula is saying, beautiful presentation, Dolores. Thank you for sharing all these beautiful signs. And Eric, I can't wait to read your book. Roseanne is saying, I had those same messages about my book from various mediums and the same experiences. I too wrote it during COVID. And Kathy is asking if you can name your mediums. Would you be willing to do that? Or
you mean the ones I've been through over the ones I went to for a reading?
Well, no, I think it sounded like you were working with some mediums to maybe in a spirit development group. No, this is just people who were telling you that.
It's a group. Well, one of them is Sandy's soul sister, who I know is on the list of mediums.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Good.
And Lisa Wilcoxon, who is
who's here tonight as well. Lisa's on here, which is wonderful.
And there are some others. I don't know if it's okay with them. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
names.
Maybe you can reach out to them, and if it's okay, we could put it on your YouTube video so that people will know. That would be wonderful. Or on the Facebook one. Dixie is saying, okay, let's see, Raina is saying, Archangel Raphael is the healing angel. Christina is saying, I love that beautiful name. Dixie saying, thank you so much for your presentation. I hope and pray I have a dream or a big sign soon. Raina is saying, I finished mine during this time also. I finished mine. Oh, the book. Okay, good. And then Kim Hutchinson is saying, I asked for Archangel Raphael today, first time, and believe he came. Lots of tingles on head and shoulders. And Colleen must be working with you.
I was going to say Colleen is also in that group. So Colleen Smith, and she's on the.
Okay, wonderful. So she says, okay with me.
Yeah, there she is.
And she's wonderful.
There's another one who I know she's a professional medium. So Britta, right? Gruben.
Oh, Britta Gruben. Okay, so these are all just they all work with Helping Parents Heal anyway. I don't think anyone
Right.
would mind, which is wonderful. Britta's
Right.
actually over in Europe right now, but
Look
she's
at
the
that.
sweetest person, and she's actually come to our group and done validations in person for our parents with Lisa Wilcoxon, which was pretty amazing. But I just want to say, we only have a few more minutes, unfortunately. I just have to say that I know everybody always says that these personalities and people sound so similar to their own kids. Eric also traveled, he studied abroad, he did all these different things, and just his personality of being so compassionate, saying thank you all the time, reminds me so much of Morgan. Morgan's birthday is 11/23 as well, but
Oh, right.
11/23/88. So 4 years before Eric's birthday. And anyway, Christine is saying, thank you so much. Your sharing is clear on the signs and so encouraging. I want to start meditating even more now, which is important. Beautiful. So it's good to know that you meditate twice a day. Joan is saying, thanks so much, Doris. This was wonderful. So unless do you have any maybe final remarks that you'd like to make before we say goodbye? Dolores, anything that you'd like to wrap up with?
Well, I think what I would say in wrapping up is that I truly believe, because, and first of all, I already said it, everyone's journey is different, but I do believe that if you have an intention to heal, you will. I believe you will. I think it's possible. People talk about, grief work. What's that? Well, you have to go out and look, read the books, or I don't know, do the meditations or talk to people. I think it is possible. It's always going to be, we're carrying this with us, till the end of our time here, but that doesn't mean you can't have joy. I think it's totally possible. I feel it. And I think as long as that's your intention, then you can have that. So.
That's beautiful. And I think maybe Diane Calderon might be a part of this whole group of healers
Yes.
that you're working with.
I didn't know if I could mention, but if she's bringing it up, yes.
Diane
Calderon.
Dolores. I don't know. She didn't say it, but I just
Oh, she didn't say. Yeah, Diane and I, yeah.
These are all just earth angels that are a part of sort of a part of Helping Parents Heal. And,
oh, yeah.
And I just feel so grateful that they've been with us from pretty much the very beginning, all of them, just amazing. So let's see. Anyway, I want to make sure that everybody gets to say goodbye and thank you. And I think Irene has probably made it so that everybody can unmute themselves. Thank you so much, Dolores.
Yes.
This was
Thank you, Dolores. It was wonderful. It's a great
Thank
book.
you, Dolores.
Suggest everyone
Thank
read it.
you.
Dolores.
Everybody.
Hey,
Thank you so
Dolores.
much. It
Thank
was
you very
so
much. Always a
real
pleasure.
and wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And make sure to come back tomorrow for Byron Key.